comment about that already this morning. They hadn't been to church. Maybe this is the second time in their life for a few people. So what we're going to do this morning is our band that plays every single week here, they're going to lead us in 3 songs. And then after that, Ken Shamrock is going to come and share his story. And then we're going to have autographs in between this service and the next service. And then we'll have autographs and pictures again after the second service. So it's going to be a great time. If you want, you can stand to your feet. And typically here at our church, we stand and we sing together. You don't have to feel any obligation to stand or to sing, but just so you know what's going on. And we're just really having a lot of fun and having a party, so it's going to be a great time. Well, guys, band, why don't you guys take it away and...
Welcome to Restoration Church. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jeremy Arsenault. I'm the creative arts director here. Just wanted to welcome you guys. And if you just came in, Pastor Nate had explained in the beginning of the service, we got 2 more songs. We'd love you guys to sing it out and just participate with us. And then we got Ken Shamrock coming up to share the word. So we're going to keep singing this song. It's called Fix My Eyes.
we're going to just take a minute and pray. And so you may have never done that before, so I'm going to do that for you. And typically people don't know what to do when when other people pray. And so I'm just going to talk, and feel free. You can close your eyes. You can stare at me. We just want you to be comfortable this morning. And so anyway, let me pray. Jesus, we thank you for everybody here today, for those who believe in you, for those who don't, for those who know you, for those who don't. The one thing that we believe here at our church is that you know who we all are. And you've been after us, and you've kind of been working in our lives to get us to a point where we step into a church where we never, ever considered it before in our life. And maybe even some of us had sworn church off a long time ago, and we made the decision to never, ever go back. And somehow we find ourselves here today. And I just pray as Ken Shamrock shares his story that in everything this morning, we would just give you kind of permission to change our lives. Those of us who believe in you and have had our lives changed by you, man, we thank you for that. And for anybody in here who doesn't, they just be open to that. If you've worked in Ken Shamrock's life and worked through all the garbage that's gone on in his life, then maybe you could work in their life as well. And we believe that. And we just pray, man, that whatever everybody needs in this room, you'll do it. And we pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, hey, we just invite you to sit down and begin to warm up your shoulders and stuff, because we're going to give a huge restoration welcome in just a second. But so we don't want anybody getting injured or having to have Tommy John surgery or anything after this. So nice and limber. You've warmed up your vocal cords. You've been singing. So could we please give a huge Restoration Church welcome to Ken Shamrock.
Cut the music. That hurts to hear the music now. There used to be a time when I heard the music, I get all pumped up. Now I start aching. That's when you know you're getting old. You hear your music on the radio, and everybody's pumped up and cheering, and you're aching. It's like, what's wrong with you? Oh, I just remember all the bumps I took. Oh, what a beautiful day. I don't mean to, put anybody out there on an island by themselves, but I'm going to. Right? That's not smart. You don't even know what I was going to say yet. Slow down. How many of you have, it's the first time you've been here, raise your hand. Okay. Good. I know some of you have probably been to other churches. Maybe sometimes you've only been here for your first time going to church, or it's been a long time. But today I want to share a little bit about my story. Not the Ken Shamrock, the fighter. We all seen that play out on TV. But I want to get real. I want you to know the Ken Shamrock, the person, and the struggles and the stuff that he had to go through and how I got to where I'm at today. I'm not going to be able to get through all of it because I can talk for hours. We just don't have hours. I think we got minutes. But, man, if there was a way that I could try to explain what it's like to be a Christian. And to be a Christian means to accept Jesus Christ into your life. I mean, to accept him wholly as your Savior. And when that transformation happens, that feeling that you get, it's like really not just like a label, right? But really being the world's most dangerous man. I mean, get that, just to think about it. If by accepting Jesus Christ into your life means that you could never die, which means that they could never take, nobody could take anything away from you, that you have eternal life. Yes, there are things you may lose in this materialistic world, but as far as your soul, your heart, everything that you have that will live on, you imagine that kind of power. And all you got to do is believe. Seems simple enough. It's not for those of us that understand that there's a lot of work that goes into it, but the payoff is pretty exciting. Actually, it's forever. And I want to go a little bit into my life and a little bit about how I got to where I'm at today, or at least in the beginning stages. Like I said, I won't be able to get through all of it. It's going to get real, okay? It's going to talk about some things that will make you wiggle in your seat a little bit because it may hit close to home in a lot of different ways. My born name was Kenneth Wayne Kilpatrick. Yes, I stayed with the Irish name. Close to home. I was born in Warner Robins, which was an Air Force base up in Georgia, in Macon County. I hate saying this, but I have to in order for you guys to get the real time. But I was born in 1964. Yeah, it was a long time ago. Now, where I grew up at was basically the ghetto in this area. It was a bunch of housing areas. It was low rent or whatever they want to call it back then. It was basically people that were struggling, not doing well. My biological mother was a go-go dancer. In today's standards, she danced at a club, making money. She's never home. I had two older brothers. Let's just go with, I was 5, 6. My oldest brother was 6, and the next one was 7. So 5, 6, and 7 was our ages at this particular time. Now, this is back in 69, 70, in those times. Now, she was working all the time, so she was gone a lot. And if she was at the house, she was most of the time sleeping because she worked late at night. A lot of times we were fending for ourselves. Imagine, it's 5 years old. Think about it for a moment. It's hard for people to really understand that it's a reality, that kids that young literally know how to fend for themselves because they have to. Not because it's being taught or because it's something that someone's teaching them how to do. It's because it's live or die. You're going to lay down and die in the street, or you're going to get up and rip and steal and claw and fight to stay alive. That's kind of the situation that we were in. Now, because we were put into the middle of this thing in Georgia, I remember a couple times going to school. And to my recollection, like I said, there's bits and pieces that are hard for me to put together at times. But the things that I remember during these times, I remember going to kindergarten at the time. I was 5 years old. I was going to school, kindergarten. My brothers were in grade school. And I remember I would go into the bathroom. And almost on a daily basis, I would get into a fight. 5 years old. Now, keep in mind, I'm still 5 years old. I would go in the restroom and I would be fighting 3, 4 guys at a time. Now, in the area I lived in was pretty much predominantly, and to my recollection, I can't remember any other white family in there at that time other than our neighbors. And there was a little girl my age that was going to the same school, and then one older brother that was probably a little bit older than my oldest brother. That's all I remember. That's it. So going to school, I was constantly getting into fights because of the color of my skin. I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea. We didn't have a TV. Fact is, we didn't even have a mirror in the house as far as I can remember. So I didn't know color. As far as I was concerned, I was like everybody else. I just didn't know any different. But here's the thing. When you're that young, and especially those other kids that probably had TVs, and they probably had mothers and fathers at home that were raising them, they would hear things on TV and they would hear things that were being said because of what was happening in the world, where people were getting shot and burned and killed over the color of their skin. And here I was, along with my two brothers, put right in the middle of a volatile situation because of the situation we were in financially. So here I was going to school all the time, and I'm fighting for survival and not understanding why. Constantly, every day. And then one time, we had an issue that happened. This is one of the times that actually, when we decided to pack up and move, along with her meeting with somebody, was our house basically got raided because of a fight that ensued in the park because I was getting jumped. My oldest brother threw a brick, hit this one girl in the head, busted her open. We all took off running. They attacked our house, throwing dirt clots inside, kicking down the windows. I cut my foot up. Police come, brawl breaks out. And that's all I remember. I don't remember anything from that point. I just remember shutting down. I don't remember any of that stuff. This is at 5 and 6 years old. This is the stuff that is being ingrained into my head. Now, the fights and stuff like that, I didn't have an understanding why they were happening. I just knew that this is where I was at and this is what I had to do in order to survive. My mother, biological mother, meets a guy in the military, flew helicopters, got shot down, pretty special guy. Meets him. It was a pretty cool car, 69 Camaro, trailer on the back. Loaded up, and we're heading. I didn't know where this place was called or what it was. Or, like I said, we didn't have much information going into our heads other than where we were at. We were going to go to Napa, California. And we were going to have a daddy and a white picket fence and a dog and all that cool stuff that's in the dream. Like it's a dream almost, like, right? It's like these things that every kid thinks they want. They do want, but they don't know what it is. So we head to Napa, California after all of this stuff that me and my brothers had already gone through. Surviving, figuring out how we can, steal toys and eat and all the things that were going on. He meets her. They hook up, boom, together, take off. All of a sudden, we're heading out. Now, we had no idea where this place is at and where we're going and where it was at, but I knew it would be better than where we were at least I thought. So, me and my two older brothers, we were all excited. So, we get to Napa, California, and we enroll in school. And again, like I said, from what I could see or understand, I felt this was my home in Georgia. That I felt everything I saw and everything I was accustomed to, I was comfortable with. So what I grew up with. So here I get to this middle class area, going to this school. It's all predominantly white. I don't feel comfortable. They talk differently, they walk differently, or maybe I did. Whatever, I had a pretty good southern drawl, I had a big attitude. So we get there, and I remember the first day of school. I walk in, and all these things are structured. It's like really uncomfortable with me. Like everything I see, everything I'm used to, it's just everything. This world is different. And I remember I'm standing outside at recess time. And there was like 4 or 5 kids that were standing over in a corner. And remember, like I told you, I had attitude. I walked differently. I talked differently. And remember, I came from a pretty hard area where it wasn't about it's about people getting stabbed, jumped, beat up, and, your life could be taken. To a place to where they don't know what that was. So here I was in recess. These kids come together. One kid that was supposed to be this toughest kid. And I remember immediately, of course, because I spot the situation. You see a crowd gather, especially where I came from, you automatically notice the crowd starting to gather. And I knew it was for me. So I immediately lean up against the wall. And all those kids come together, and I see them pointing fingers and laughing, and all of a sudden, the crowd starts moving towards me. So the first thing I do is I lean up against the wall, and I'm looking around for exit strategies. Listen, I'm 5 and 6 years old this time, and already I got an idea of what's happening and what I'm going to do before it ever happens. So as they were coming up, the mouthing starts. You're this, you're that, where are you from? Now, all this is gibberish to me. But I am paying attention. And as I'm leaning against it, I'm going, okay, I'm going to hit that one first. Then that one. So I'm already sizing up the alpha male, right? I mean, I already get an idea. I got to put somebody down first. So as I'm sitting there, waiting for this thing to pop off, all of a sudden I hear him say, 3 o'clock today after school behind the gym. We're going to fight. As soon as he said the word fight, bam! I hit him. Down he goes. I just literally start putting him. Now, this is violent. Don't get me. It's not things we do in church, but this is okay. So I start kicking him. Boom. And as I'm kicking him, I'm watching the rest of them, waiting for the next guy to come. And all of a sudden, they just took off running. It's funny now. Back then, I was scared, because especially where I came from. Normally, you realize you're going to take a beating. You're going to get hurt. But what I didn't realize was these guys didn't understand that where I came from, you don't make reservations. It's like, today at 3 o'clock we're going to fight. Because if you do, there's going to be 10 guys waiting for you around the corner. When you walk up, they're going to jump you. So really soon on, I realized I was different. And everybody else realized I was different. Pretty soon I had a hard time making friends. Everybody thought I was psycho. The teachers even thought I needed to be put on medication. It was like they didn't even know me. They didn't know where I came from or what my background was. Immediately when they saw me do something like that, well, this kid's got to get on medication. There's something wrong with him. How about where I grew up at? That's just the way things were. So after a few years there, yes, a few years. Now I want you to think about this for a minute. If you hadn't already noticed, there's definitely a clash already with the situation. You've got 3 young kids who were young, but really never had any structure. It's like putting a pit bull out there in the yard and say, raise yourself. Could be a lot of dead cats and dogs and a lot of bitten people, right? There's no structure. Well, we were the pit bulls. Go ahead, raise yourself. And then you got a guy who was in the military, decorated in the military. You could bounce a quarter off of his bed. I mean, literally structured. It was like, oops, that's a runaway freight train. You just knew it couldn't work. Not right away, anyways. So it took probably 2-3 years of constant fighting and beatings and disastrous things happening within those walls of that house. Screaming and yelling and just, it was like a nightmare. I would much rather be in Georgia on the street taking a beating in the street rather than be in that house. I mean, that's how bad it got. And it was because, not that this guy was a horrible person, it was because he was trying to do something right. He was trying to show these kids structure and discipline. The problem was this guy never raised kids before. He didn't understand who we were and what we'd been through and the stuff that we'd already gone through prior to him. You can't come in and just go, okay, boom, these are the rules and live by them. It's like telling somebody, go, hey, I want you to go over there and sweep that floor. Now, to most of us, we would go, sounds simple enough. Except clean to me is not the same thing as clean to you. So I never knew what that was. Sweeping, I've never swept a broom before. Never saw a clean floor. So it didn't make sense. And here's one of the things that really kind of catapulted this whole situation out of control. And it's pretty innocent starting out. Was one night we were all sitting around. Of course, in them days when you're sitting there eating dinner, you got to eat everything on your plate. So we get served up peas and some sort of meat and some mashed potatoes, and you know, it was all pretty good food. And so we're all sitting there around the table eating like they used to. You know, all the family would sit together and eat. And I hated peas. I couldn't stand them. So we had to eat everything on our plate. So I remember trying to eat them, and I was like, And he'd look over, don't you spit those out! Choking them down, like, ugh. So fine, I said, man, I ain't doing this. I'm going to throw them up. I mean, I'm gagging on them. I can't stand them. So I start being slick, waiting for him to turn away and talk. Well, after a few times of that, I got caught. Imagine that, a young kid like me not being slick enough. So he goes, get up! Get up. I was pretty gross, all stuck to my pants and everything. Things you do not to eat peas, right? So I get up and caught me. Oh, I'm busted. Now listen. Dessert. And we had a TV now. Like we after dinner, we go and watch TV and we have cookies or dessert or something. That was a big deal for us. Go to your room, no dessert, no TV. Ouch. I mean, literally, that hurt. Really, if it would have stopped there, that would have been enough for me to try to at least, I would have said, like, give me the peas. Because it was a big deal, man. So he sends me in the room and says, you're not getting cookies and no dessert. And man, I was bummed. I remember listening and watching TV and laughing and having fun, and I was in the room. It hurt. I remember lights go off, everybody's in bed. And I remember just like how disappointed I was, right? Like, man, I messed up. And I was like, but then I kept thinking about the cookies. They were only 20 feet away. Right? Like, So after thinking about it for about 10 seconds, I got up and I ate the cookies. Got in there, started munching down on the cookies. Didn't care, really didn't. Didn't even try to hide it, really. But even if I did, come on, man. Military, he marked the milk. He knew how many cookies were in there. I'm serious, how many eggs we had. It was like regimented. The next morning comes around. Oh, my goodness. It's about the only time I really ever woke up. Who ate the cookies? Oh! My goodness, they're just cookies. So he goes, all right, get in here. Line up. Of course, my brothers are all just glaring at me. They're older than me, by the way. I'm over in the corner going, who ate the cookies? Of course, my brothers weren't going to say anything. You know what I mean? They just didn't do that. Well, not yet anyways. So You're glaring at me. And he knows who did it too, right? Come on. But I tell you what, I'm going to make you say it. So he goes, get in the room. Here comes the peer pressure. One of you is going to say it as he looks at me. And as my brothers are looking at me. It's like, oh, yeah, so, but I'm not going to say it. So he takes his belt off, lines us up, boom, 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 right down the line, bang, 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 bang. So it progresses a little bit more because I ain't saying nothing. And he downed it again. Probably about 10 minutes of this. Boom, boom, boom. Then he goes, all right. All right. Now it starts to be a competition between him and me about whether or not he was going to break me. And I refuse to let him win. Really? It's about cookies. Now it became about wills and him breaking me and trying to take away anything from me. I hated him now. And now it wasn't about the cookies. Not even to him. Now it was about him showing us who's boss. Lost all sight of what was trying to happen here. Discipline. Teach kids how to do the right thing and tell the truth. That was out the window. Now it was about willpower. Now it was about who was going to win. So then he says, take down your pants. And goes down the line. Bam, bam, bam. And we're hopping around, trying to get out of the way. And now my brothers are screaming at him, tell him, Ken, tell him. Like, no. I was so angry inside and so mad. I didn't even know what this was about anymore other than he was trying to hurt me. So then he sends him out. I'm going to show you. Here it went from this thing that was cookies where he was going to try to teach us about honesty and discipline and doing the right thing to something completely different. It got out of hand. It went from now where he was swinging this belt with the belt, the handle part of it, trying to reach me to hit me because I was running around the room. Because he was trying to hit me and I couldn't stay still anymore and I was running. Hit me in the head. I remember one time I was half dizzy. Everywhere. To where he got tired and just walked out of the room. It started out innocent. It started out, we'll spank him, teach him discipline, But he got way into something that just didn't make any sense. Now, don't look bad on it. It sounds bad. It does. But I'm telling you, it's easy to get out of control. When you think you're starting to do the right thing and it turns into something completely different. It's easy to point the finger. Now, after this happens, I'm done. I got nothing left for this house. I don't want to be here. I'm done. I run away. Now, I'm skipping a lot of parts because I got a lot to get through, but my two older brothers at this point in time, because all this stuff that happened, they were already in boys' camp, work camps. They had already gotten in trouble, got caught by the law. I hadn't gotten caught yet. I was living out of a car. I got stabbed into a gang fight, got stabbed, went to the hospital, woke up in handcuffs, became a ward of the court. Once I became a ward of the court, I got sent into placement. How much time do I got left? Cool. So I become a ward of the court. I go 2 different placements, I believe 2 different placements, and I failed them. Just was an angry guy. Ended up going home on a home visit. I remember when I went on a home visit because I had failed displacement. They didn't have any room in juvenile hall. And at this time, I was 10 years old. Already been through a couple placements, failed. I mean, I had a record it was thick. And I was still young. And I remember I got sent home because there was nowhere to put me. And I was one of the younger ones, so they put me basically on a house arrest, sent me back, told my supposedly parents that I couldn't go anywhere or do anything, and I had to stay in the house. If they had any problems, to call them and they'd come get me. Well, I remember going back, and I don't remember the exact day it was on. It was either Friday or Saturday, some day. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember walking into the house, and my mom, biological mother, was crying. She had this black book in her hand. And I remember looking at it going, man. I mean, I've seen her cry before, but it was loud. There was, things breaking and people screaming and, all kinds of stuff going on. And you could understand why there was crying. I didn't understand why there was crying here. It was quiet. So I remember sitting there and had this black book. And I said, what's wrong with you? Oh, nothing. She started trying to explain to me about this person, this thing. And I remember looking at her and I go, you're crying. I'm thinking in my head, what is so good about that? She's talking about this special thing, but she's crying. I was like, dude, now I really know the world's screwed up. You're happy and you're crying. Okay, whatever. So, a couple hours pass. I can't go anywhere. I know that he's coming back. I know he's going to want me to work, pull weeds, wash cars, slave, just be a slave. And so I remember she says, I'm going to go to church. It was Sunday. And asked if I wanted to go. Now, I heard of church. But everything I knew about church was that it was a cult. It was just like these weird people. So I thought, I don't want to stay here. So I'll go to church and just have fun. Kind of laugh at them, just have some fun. Don't do anything. Remember, I'm young, 10 years old. So we go. And I remember my biological mom was excited. And it was just, like I said, a whole weird, different feeling for me. At this point in time, just so you understand a little bit, I'd never been hugged. I understand what feeling good was about. The only time anybody ever thought about making me feel good or wanting to feel good was it was something bad. Something when people took advantage of me. So I didn't understand that. Right? It's just different. So here I go to this church. And on this day, the youth pastor is taking the kids out in our neighborhood. Now, I knew our neighborhood. And we were handing out these flyers to invite people to come to church. Now, this is on Sunday. So the people that were going to church were probably already there. People that were at home were people that weren't in church. So we were going around to different neighborhoods. And, of course, these kids would go up and they'd do a spiel about coming to church. And they would hand them a flyer. And, of course, me, that ain't me. I'm not doing that. I'll carry the box. I'll walk and carry the box. And so as we're traveling around the neighborhood, and these kids were giving these flyers out, they go up, they say their thing, they'd hand them this flyer. And on the flyer, they had these Wrigley spearmint gums, just one stick, cheap. One stick, stuck to these paper. They had it taped on there. They'd hand it to them, and Wrigley spearmint gum on them. They'd say, hey, come to our church, we'd love to have you. Yeah. Anyway, so they were really happy. And they would hand these things out. Well, while we were traveling around there, I was bored. So I would be taking the Wrigley spearmint gums off these flyers. and I'll be eating them. And fun part about it now it is, I feel bad for them now, but not really. But anyways, when I was eating these gums, and they were going up and handing these flyers out to these people, I remember they'd hand them out, and they'd do their spiel and go to say something about the gum, and they would go. They like, welcome back. Sorry. So we did this probably for about a half hour, probably. 20 half hours, something like that. And when we went around the neighborhood handing all these things out, and I remember I almost felt from a moment like, what am I doing here? I mean, it's uncomfortable. At that moment, as I'm walking, and I remember this clearly, I step off the curb. I'm stepping off a curb. And as I'm stepping off the curb, I land, and in just that instant, all my pain, all my chaos and confusion, peace that I never felt, I didn't understand, just flooded me. No reason. I didn't ask for it. Really didn't understand even what I was doing there, other than it just felt like it'd be fun. Listen, I want you to understand this. How do you explain something that I just felt when I don't even know what it is? I've never, like I said, I've never been hugged. At this point, I'd never been hugged other than in a bad way. Anybody that was nice to me had ulterior motives. So here I was in this moment of this feeling good, feeling the urge to go up to talk to this youth pastor about what I felt. But one side of me is saying, go ahead. But the other side of me inside is saying, don't do it, man. It's gay. Seriously, though, think about it. Somebody that's happy and nice and go-lucky and the world's fine and just bouncing around was not good to me. So here I'm thinking, what do I do? I'm just a young kid. Hey, listen. I don't care how hard you are or how tough you think you are. When you feel something like that, you want more of it. You want to know how you get it. Even if you truly don't understand it, it's still something that's going to get you to want to find it unconsciously. So here I was on a home visit, not really wanting to be in church, going there to have some fun, make fun of people. And here I was facing the Holy Spirit. This thing that had just poured all over me and made me feel good, and I'm confused. So I built up the courage to go up and talk to the youth pastor, very uncomfortably, fidgeting, trying to explain to him what just happened without me feeling like I was gay, feeling like that I was uncomfortable. I was bouncing on my tongue. I didn't know what to say. How do I explain this? God works in so many different ways that we can't even begin to understand it. Before I ever walked up to him to try to explain what was going on, he already had it laid out. He already had this guy already knowing what was going to come out of my mouth when I walked up to him. Because I didn't even understand what I was saying, but he understood what I was saying. God laid it out when I walked up to him because God knows everything. So when I walked up to him, I started talking to him, he knew exactly what was happening. The next day, I get baptized. I accept Jesus Christ in my life. Did I understand it? No. Did I want it? Yes. Did I know how to keep it? Did I know how it all worked? No. But I knew I wanted more of it. I knew I wanted to know more of it. I wanted it. I don't know exactly how, but that's what I want. I want to know. I get baptized. They were awful brave to do this. Again, like I said, God works in mysterious ways. I'm standing up in front of the whole congregation telling them my experience. Never been inside a church before. Didn't even understand what that was. Didn't you thought it was weird? Remember all this stuff? And now I'm standing in front of a congregation telling them my experience. How it came out, I don't know. But obviously it came out. Just as things, I think, are going well, I'm starting to have an understanding about something different in this world. Maybe there is goodness out there. Whatever that is. Being snatched right out of that, right back into the placement. Remember, I was on a home visit. Now, here it is. Without that experience, there's nothing planted in me. There's nothing there to have me search for something better. Even though I didn't do it consciously, unconsciously I knew there was something, and I kept searching. Here it is. Going all these group homes. I failed all of them except for one. All of them. Not knowing what it is I'm looking for, but God did. And because of that experience that I had that day, kept me consciously looking for something better. I would go to these homes, and there'd be no counselors that would watch us. They'd let us do whatever we wanted, and I ran away from there because I didn't feel right. I knew there was something better. I didn't do this thinking about it or planning it out. I didn't. It just happened that way because I felt something, and I knew it was out there. So we kept running to find something. I ended up at a place called the Shamrock Boys Home. After all the stuff that I had been through, I was 13 years old at this point in time. 13. Failed everywhere I went. This was my last chance. If I don't succeed at this home, I'm going to prison. California Youth Authority. Kids prison. I'm done. No more chances. End of story. Now, in those days, probably today too, you couldn't teach church into a government facility. Or at least in those homes, if you did, you had to teach all of them. It was illegal. But I go to this home, and guess what? They taught church. Out of all the homes I'd been to and all the fails that I went through and just what I just explained to you and told you, I end up at a place that teaches church and they're not supposed to. And do you know why they were able to teach church? Because they were successful. Their rate of putting kids back into their homes was at a very high rate. That the parole officer, the probation officers, the POs, or whatever you want to call them, would just look the other way because they were successful. Now, out of all the homes I go to, it's my last shot. I go to a place that's going to teach church. And it's something that I experienced and that I wanted to know more of. And here it is right in front of me. After all of that, here I am. Here's my opportunity to be able to change my life. I didn't know it. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't that smart. Oh, there it is. I've been searching for you. No, it didn't work like that. But I knew I was missing something. I was empty. I kept searching, and then I found it. And then I grabbed onto it and held onto it and tried to learn as much as I could. I wasn't perfect, trust me. But God does work in mysterious ways that we can't ever even understand. And after all of that, I end up at a place that's going to teach church that's illegal, and I get to learn more about what it is that I was chasing for so long and didn't know it. Whenever I ask them during this time, okay, and even as I got older and became a peer counselor and tried to push, this belief that I had, is when I asked them, the difference between that home and all the rest of them was what? I mean, it's simple. Anybody can answer it. But when you tell them that, they're like, no, it can't be that. Well, then tell me what it was. Was it because they were that much better at working with kids, or was it because they taught church? Because as far as I know, there are a lot of good people out there that work in group home systems and this and that do good jobs. But there comes that point in time where there's nothing any human being can do, but God can. That's the difference. That was the difference then. But the minute you bring that up, it can't be that. It just can't be. Well, then tell me what it was. They'll come up with every other idea but that. Why? Why can't it be that? Pretty obvious to me. Now, things didn't work out perfectly, as we all know, as Christian brothers and sisters, when we go through this life. Expectations, there's more being asked from us. We got to grow. Now, I know this is a shock to a lot of you, but I had an anger problem. You'll get there. So, just because you become a Christian doesn't mean all your troubles are going to be worked out for you. Now we've got to start getting results. We've got to start working towards being better. Now, I had this anger issue. Now, I want to end on this, but I want to close it in with something. Because being a Christian isn't just about being a Christian, it's also about being responsible with your faith, right? So here is my father who teaches church and is leading people to Christ as young kids, but there's also got to be some work behind it. Like, okay, I came with 2 other kids when I went up there. 2 of those kids had drug problems. They were big time into drugs. They were 17 years old, right? I was 13. Okay, I had anger issues, big time. So when we get there, here's the thing. When we get there, we're sitting there. Bob Shamrock takes us boys, sits us down on the stool, and basically serves us Coke and whatever we wanted, some cookies, and he was talking to us. Like most of the time we go and the probation officers would talk with the house owner or the counselor, whoever was there, and the kids would go off with the other kids and they'd show them around. He sent the probation officer in the kitchen with the cook, and she made him, coffee and cookies, and he talked to us, which was weird. That just didn't happen. But here's the thing that really, at the time, caught me, but I didn't understand it till later on. I do now. Was that he basically broke it down like this. You guys talking to, and I can say their first names, Jeff and Sean, were with me, and they had their drug problems. They'd been busted a lot of times for selling drugs and in drugs, and so if you guys go into town, of course we get to go in town? Cool. So he goes, if you guys go in town and you start doing drugs, it's just like this. And Ken goes in with you and he's doing it. He says, you guys are going to dig a pool in the wintertime. You're going to work. And you're going to get on shutdown for 30 days, which means you ain't going anywhere, no phone calls, no nothing. You're shut down. But if Ken does the same thing, he might get a week. Ooh, cool. Favoritism. No. He said, if Ken goes into town and you guys go into town and Ken gets into a fight, put somebody in the hospital and you guys go in there and get into a fight and do the same thing, you guys are going to be in trouble for a week, but Ken's going to get on shutdown. Ken's going to get locked down. Now, here's the thing, okay? We weren't numbers. He actually knew what our problems were. Started working on what our identities are, what our issues are, who we were as people and what our struggles are. Started pointing them out, like we are going to fix this, help you identify it and move you on. Not just go, you're all kids into this home and you're all under the same blanket and you're all going to get the same punishment. It was the first time I ever heard somebody go, bang, this is your issue and we're going to work with you. It's the first time anybody ever put God first in this type of environment where they're saying, we are going to work with this, with you, through God. It's a winning combination. I'm standing here today because of that combination. Now, I know we got another thing to do, probably up with time. Listen, I want to do this. Understand that testimonies, okay, Testimonies aren't about us being able to get up here and tell our story because it makes us feel good or because it gives us the limelight. It puts us on stage. Testimonies in the Bible is an obligation from all Christian brothers and sisters to tell it, no matter how small it is, no matter how big of a crowd that you have. Because your testimony, whether it be with your children or a neighbor or somebody else around you, could save a life because of something that you had gone through, something that you've been through, that would affect somebody else going, oh, I know what you're saying. Well, how did you do it? And that testimony could turn somebody's life around. So I want to leave you with that thought, okay? All the stuff that we talked about, I want you to make sure you just remember that. And if it affects you, God bless you. I hope it works for you. But also remember this too. You also have to be able to pay it forward. You also have to be able to share with other people your testimony. I want to thank you for your time. Ones that stay for the second service, I'll get to speak again. But God bless you guys. Thank you for having me. There it is.
As Ken shares his story, I mean, just put together all the pieces and everything he walked through from just learning how to fight to survive and the neglect of development and neglect of love and going through molestation and abuse, physical and emotional abuse, going through all that. And then at 10 years old, this unknown God, unknown to him, maybe unknown to you, all of a sudden says, hey, right there in the middle of you stealing bubble gum, right there on the side of the road, let me just show you who I am. And he felt that peace. He felt the goodness of God that he'd never even heard about before. That changed everything, the whole direction, the whole future of his life. At 13 years old, and he became part of we got moved into the Shamrock Home for Boys and got adopted by Bob Shamrock, who he was telling about. And God, one of my favorite verses in the Bible is God places the lonely in families. And Ken Gilpatrick, who is unknown to everybody, God placed him in a family. And in Bob Shamrock's family and in the family of God. And as Ken shares his story, the reason he travels the country now sharing about his childhood is because we all think it's fame and glory and money and popularity. Like, man, some of us, it's our dream to have lived the part we saw on TV. The reason he was able to live that out is because what God did in his life as a 10-year-old and as a 13-year-old. So as you're here this morning, you're trying to figure out, like, oh, this is a lot different than what I was expecting. And all of a sudden now, you kind of at the same place that Ken was at 10 years old. Like, do I go talk to someone about this, or I pretend this never happened? Do I go talk to one of the pastors about this, or I'm going to talk about this with Ken Shamrock, during the autograph time, or am I going to forget this ever happened? And we just want to invite you to be a part of this family, to be a part of Restoration Church as Ken leaves and goes back to Nevada where he lives today. You're here, and we're here as well. And we want to be a part of your life, helping you not to just keep wandering, not to just keep existing, but to be known and be loved by the God who created this entire universe. And so as you're trying to figure out what do you do next from here, I mean, there's real easy things you can do. So that the order of service that you got when you came in, there's one part on the bottom of that you can rip off. And if you put as much information as you're comfortable, man, we want to know that you are here. We want to help you as you just begin to live that out and try to figure out what's the next step you take in knowing Jesus and beginning to follow him and beginning to have your life changed by him. We also want to invite you back. We're here every Sunday at these two service times, 9:30 and 11:15. And next week we're starting a pretty cool series called Anthems. And we're taking one song that's on the top of the charts right now, and we're playing that in the service. I think next week it's the song by Kigo and Selena, It Ain't Me. Is that right? I keep saying it wrong. But the band will be playing that song. And then we take one of the songs in the Bible and we look at that. And in in all these songs that are on the top of the charts, they're singing about something. And sometimes it's something that corresponds with the Bible, and sometimes it's just an incomplete thought that they got in the Bible, because he knows everything. He completes it. Like he brings you the full spectrum and the full understanding of just how life is. And so we invite you back for that. And then for those of you who you kind of have a lot of courage, when everybody leaves and they go get into the autograph line, we invite you to come forward. And there are people here who will pray with you, even if you've never been prayed for before, even if you've never been to church before. They're going to pray with you. And if you are making the decision today, you know what? If Ken Shamrock, who's been my hero, if even Ken Shamrock has a hero, that being Jesus, then I want to find out who Jesus is. And they'll be up here, Chris and John. And so we have some ushers here, and those of you who are taking the step to fill out a connection card, they're going to pass some buckets down the aisle, and you could put those connection cards in there. And then if you come to Restoration Church, you can give there as well. We are so glad that you came here today. And so Ken is going to be going. What we're going to do is we're going to have, when you go out into the lobby, there's a welcome center there. You can get any questions you have about the church. There's coffee and stuff. You can help yourself to that. All that's free. But then we're going to go outside. So the main doors that you came in, when you walk out those doors, turn left, and we'll be down at the end of the building where you can sign where Ken will be signing autographs. We have pictures that were printed, so if you didn't get one you came in, you can grab one, and then you got something for him to sign rather than like your bicep, because he'll probably sign, "This is pathetic, Ken Shamrock." And so anyway, we just invite you to stay for that. Just to get a couple more people to pass the buckets through. And man, it's been great. So glad to have you here. It was fun hanging out with Ken last night. I picked him up from the airport, and we came in town. His flight was delayed a few hours, so when he got off the plane, he looked like he just got off of out of a fight. He looked pretty beat. I felt for you, but man, it's been great listening to him talk. And I said, "Ken, what's your greatest accomplishment in your whole life?" And he said that I have a happy marriage and that I have my kids with me. And he had gone through a divorce but has been remarried 12 years ago. And just think of everything you've gone through to say that. Anyway, it was just such an honor. Well, let me close in prayer, and we'll get out of here. Why don't you stand to your feet? Man, Jesus, I thank you that you changed my life when I was 14 years old, and thank you for the people who come here who you've worked in their life. And there's a bunch of people in the room right now wondering if you would know them, if you even are real, or if you could help them and change their life. And we know that you can. So I just pray that you would speak to hearts, touch people, show them a glimpse of how good you are, like you did for Ken. And we just pray that you will bring us all, help us to learn about you and love you and follow you. And we pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Listen, we invite you to go get an autograph line or come forward for prayer.